What is up, degenerates? JJ back here with Holden for week 6 in the NFL. Pretty full slate of games this week, especially compared to last week. So I'm looking forward to this discussion here with you, Holden. Now, our best bets last week both won. I think this is like 3 or 4 times now this year where both of us won our best bets. My 2 team teas hit, and your McCall Hardman prop hit. Holden, to be honest, we might have to start renaming your plays to whales. I mean, right?
Yeah, like I said, this week I've just been deciding what my new nickname is going to be. Is it going to be Fudgy? Is it going to be Shamu? You want it to be Vegas Dave. I don't want it to be Vegas Dave. But listen.
It could be Colorado Holden.
Colorado. That's a horrible name.
I mean, it doesn't.
Colorado Kush.
It doesn't
matter. Now.
Colorado Kush, okay.
Yeah. And listen, unfortunately, there's a limit to the prop bet. So, you're not getting rich off of me. But we're off to a nice start. We'll see. I'm sure it'll all come crashing down, but you might as well just tail while it's hot, right? And you've been crushing it. So I'm looking forward to that too. We'll see what the picks are today. Everything's good. I don't think we're going to have time for my BBW dating site story because we have so many games. So let's just get into this.
If we get there, though, we got to hear it.
If we do, we will hear it, but we got to get to some games. So let's start with that, buddy. All right. So Chicago at Carolina. This is an interesting one here. I'm actually looking forward to it. We got Carolina putting up a lot of points. The Chicago defense, can they go out there and shut down Teddy Bridgewater and Mike Davis and such? This spread is between 1 and 1.5, with Carolina being the like 2 weeks ago, Carolina, we were talking about them being the worst team in the world, and now they're favorites at home against the Bears, and the total is 45. Any leans in this one, JJ?
Yeah, so first of all, let's give a little credit to Matt Rule and Joe Brady, right? This team, from a coaching perspective, has looked really, really good. Bridgewater's looked as good as I can remember. Robbie Anderson looks like an automatic Pro Bowler. DJ Moore as a second fiddle is probably one of the better second fiddles in the league. They're able to turn Mike Davis into Christian McCaffrey 2.0. I mean, this dude was terrible coming into this season, at least in short instances when he's had opportunities to play. This year, he looks incredible. I mean, think about it. Like, how much of a true drop-off has there been from Davis to McCaffrey? I mean, the dude catches 7-8 balls a game. He runs pretty well between the tackles. Obviously, the speed's not there. McCaffrey's better for sure. But, I mean, from a number standpoint, Mike Davis put up ridiculous numbers. I think the thing that's not getting realized enough with Carolina, though, is how good their defense has been, right? I think a lot of people thought coming into the year this might be a historically bad defense, which I'll give the credit to the coaching. I mean, obviously, that's not Brady, but I'll give the credit to Rule. I mean, he's always been a good defensive guy. He was a good defensive guy at Temple. He went over to Baylor and turned them into a good defensive squad. So I know it's early. It's tough to kind of overreact, right? But they've been good. Now, ultimately, I think I've said on the show a bunch of times, I am not, at least at this point, a Nick Foles guy. Okay. I just don't think people always remember the good things about him 3-4 years ago. I just don't think I've seen that from him since. Now, ultimately, this is one of those spots where I think you're going to see a lot of people want to tease this game up. So you've seen the 1.5 number. They'll probably want to tease the Bears up to 7.5. But what I will say is that ultimately in this spot, again, kind of like last week, right? You're pretty much buying high on the Panthers. Bears, more or less probably should not be underdogs in this spot. So you are if you're buying the Bears, okay, you're buying low on the Bears and buying high on the Panthers either way. Or buying low on the Bears if you're getting them here. Just a real ugly game overall. There's probably going to be a few turnovers. Foles definitely hasn't been a stranger to that. But a game that does seem to play out probably in between the 40s. Awful lot of punts. 2 teams that play they like to run the football. I'm going to stay away from this game overall. But again, do realize if you're betting Carolina here, you are definitely buying high on them.
All right, very good. Let's move on to Detroit and Jacksonville. Now, JJ, there's a couple games with wind today, and this is one of them, and it's actually really concerning to me. So we could have winds 15 to 20 miles an hour with gusts more than that, and once we get to that 15 to 20 mile an hour range, quarterback production goes down. That is just a fact. Detroit is a 3-point favorite on the road. The total here is 50. I'm seeing here, William Hill has it 54.5. The DraftKings has it at 53.5. So if you're betting under, you're going to want to go to William Hill, I guess, on this one. But it does worry me a little bit, JJ, and I'm probably the only one in this boat this morning because I love this total all week. It's just that wind scaring me away. Should I be afraid? I don't need Google. My boyfriend.
I mean, 15 mile an hour winds can be scary, right? Ultimately, it gets even scarier if there's rain involved with it. There's not going to be the case here, but we did see this type of weather, not obviously this without the rain. Seattle Sunday night had about 15 to 20 mile an hour winds. And we saw them kind of get slow in the beginning, but then the scoring picked up later once the rain kind of died down. So the wind, wind impacts, but look, when you talk 20, 25 mile an hour winds, yeah, it's hard to throw a football, especially long distance in that weather. But however, 15 mile an hour winds, I guess not the end of the world, but definitely would make one want to lean towards the under for sure. For me, my lean would be Detroit first half. I don't like this team laying points ever. So you won't see me take Detroit to win this game. I do think if you're betting Detroit to win this game, you're more or less getting them at a bad price or bad number per se, because ultimately Jacksonville was better a few weeks ago, and now Jacksonville plays bad, so the market's disrespecting them again. But ultimately, we know what Detroit is, right? Detroit typically comes out scoring early. You could even maybe bet Detroit's over their team total for the first half if you have that option. We've seen this all year. Detroit comes out and is able to score early, whether it's a good game script, whether it's Patricia's game script, whatever it is. But when adjustments need to be made, Matt Patricia is one of the worst in the league at doing so. Actually, one of the worst second-half teams in the NFL since he's been the head coach there. They may even be the worst second-half team in the NFL since he started coaching there. So either way, if I'm going to target this game, it'll be Detroit first half. At 3, you'll be able to get -2, -2.5, maybe at semi, plus 100 money. But either way, that is that's the spot I'm targeting for this game.
I mean, it's just two teams that cannot stop anybody, which is why I put it on the sheet. James Robinson, back to the well, maybe the last time for a long time, because Vegas is starting to catch up to his prop, but over 100 rushing and receiving yards for him today. I don't see how they're going to stop him. And if there's wind, they're going to go to the run a little bit more. So I feel very good about James Robinson today. That is the Colorado Kush whale play. It's the last time I'll do it, because you guys started calling Mangone Travis, and now all of a sudden he has like this multiple personality disorder. So that's it. Let's just stop it.
Imagine not having more than one personality though.
I don't know what my second one is. Yego, Cody Ave, Gregory Russo, Benjamin. What's up, boys? What's going on? Let's get to our next game here. That would be Atlanta in Minnesota. So the Falcons are 4-point dogs on the road. The total is 53.5. This game is indoors. So Julio's back. I don't know how much of a difference that makes at this point in time. This is an old Julio. This is banged up, or this is legit old Julio at this point. I think, you know what, JJ, the thing that really interests me about this is that Minnesota's gotten healthy in their secondary finally. So there has been a little bit of an improvement there. I at least expect a little bit of an improvement there. Do you have any thoughts on this one? Of course you do. Yeah. That's why I'm asking you a question.
Yeah, so a few things to note here. Okay, so these two teams play week 1. This line's going to be 3. So ultimately what Vegas is more or less implying is that what we've seen from both teams to date is only worth 1 point to the line. Which I'm a little head scratching there, right? Because ultimately, the Falcons have looked like one of the worst teams in the NFL every week, and Minnesota's looked pretty competent in the last few weeks. So to say that Atlanta's only downgraded 1 point into this game, that I don't know if I fully agree with. However, they're getting Julio back, right? So if we could argue he's worth a point to the line, okay, that's a point plus for Atlanta. Dalvin Cook's out, which here's the thing: how much do you personally think the drop-off is to Madison? I don't really have it as much, only half point, because Madison's looked really good when he's been in there. He's gotten he was a workhorse at Boise, so he's no stranger to taking a lot of carries and catching balls out of the backfield. However, what I will say in this game is it is very difficult for one to want to bet Atlanta. They are getting Julio back, and while Julio himself might not be a big bet for his own stat line, he opens things up for Calvin Ridley, right? So Calvin Ridley should be seeing a lot softer coverages today with Julio back, and along with some of those other receivers. But ultimately, the play for me personally would probably be Minnesota for the first half as well. I know I said first half for Atlanta. First half as well, again, because I think Atlanta's just one of these teams that's been kind of starting in quicksand. I know that they haven't exactly adjusted well either afterwards, but it would be a lean. I don't love this game in either way because I don't like laying points with a team like Minnesota. Atlanta's probably going to get right one of these weeks. So not much overall for me in this one, but it would be a lean Minnesota first half.
And then the other thing is everybody's just assuming that Madison's going off for like 150 yards today. The Atlanta defense kind of been a funnel. They've actually been decent against the run. They just get passed on left and right. Now, there's no question Madison's good, and he could go for 100, but I think if everybody's just thinking it's a layup, that's not the way to go. I think their run defense is not as bad as people assume. Their pass defense are going to get shredded every single week.
Yeah.
Every week. Which is why people are actually talking about Irv Smith on the DFS side, which is Houston at Tennessee. This is interesting. The Titans 3.5-point favorites at home. Total here is 52.5. Deshaun Watson. Here's a guy that's actually looks like he's turning things around. He's got Romeo Cornell there. Team looked like they had a little bit of life at least, right? And then with Tennessee, they're playing on a shorter week, but this is one of the best teams in the National Football League, JJ. Like, they have backed up what they did last year, and I think they're taking it to the next level.
Yeah, so in this game, actually with the total being down, I actually like the over. Now, was there any weather concerns here, Holden, that I'm not aware of with wind or anything like that?
Let me see here. Houston, Tennessee. I did not see that. No, I did not.
So over is a spot I really like in this one, specifically because Houston's offense looked a lot better last week. First time with the interim head coach and new offensive scheme, and so also Watson was airing the ball out much more downfield last game. Obviously, finding Cooks, and look, Fuller's always going to get his fair share of targets as well. And look, we know we get with Tennessee, right? Tannehill's been very efficient. His numbers have been very comparable, believe it or not, to Pat Mahomes over the last 15 to 16 games. I think Clay Travis posted that number earlier in the week or later last week, how comparable those two people's numbers have been, Mahomes and Tannehill. Anyway, in this game, so ultimately, I know people are like, oh, well, Tennessee might take the air out of the ball by running the football. Like, in terms of plays per second in the NFL, like Tennessee's like third or second best or fastest in the NFL. And they also run a lot of no huddles, believe it or not. Tannehill has no issue when they get the run going. They like running no huddle to get Henry moving downhill. So ultimately, for me in this spot, I really like the over 52.5. It's just a strong lean. It might even be a spot I want to target in-game over if I can get like for 49.5 or 50. But this is just a game where Houston's offense kind of looks like they've kind of turned it around. I know it's only been one game, but the offense did look more efficient last week. And I know it's Jacksonville too, but either way, like Houston had some opportunities to move the ball offensively against their previous teams and just hadn't. And then Tennessee, look, we know what we get with them, right? We get a very efficient run game with play action, and Houston Swiss cheese back there. So I would expect a lot of yards to pile up in this game and ultimately points to be on the board.
I mean, listen, you do your power rankings, you're looking at the total here. And while I was sitting around, messing around, I had it right around 52, 53. So you're looking to get in. So what has to happen for you to bet this game live?
So I'd want to see this total. Like, I'd want to see a punt from the 50, like a team start the game, a few first downs, and they punt from the 50 and pin a team down inside the 10. That's when I would want to bet it over. It'll probably be 48.5 at that point. All
right, very good. Washington at the Giants. I'm not that interested in this game. I think we could see a lot of points, though. So tell me about the over here at 52, actually 42.5. 42.5. The Giants are 1.5 to 2 point favorites at home. So you're getting, you get 2 points at circa 1.5, just about everywhere else, JJ. What kind of pace are we looking at here? What kind of scoring are we looking at here?
So, okay, so you have two below average offenses. You also have two below average defenses. Here's the thing that sticks out to me, though. Washington has by far the best defensive line in this game on many fronts. So they're going to seemingly get a lot of pressure on Daniel Jones. And I'll assume that'll become or end up becoming some mistakes from him, whether it's fumbling, whether it's interceptions. And for me, look, anytime you can get points with a team like Washington against a team like the Giants, or anytime a team like the Giants is laying points, like I'm just going to ultimately want to play the other side. But now this line's dipped down to 1 today. This was 2.5 most of the week. So you're kind of losing out on value there. So I would say if you liked the Giants, this would now be a good time to bet the Giants. If you like the Washington football team, you kind of missed out on the good number. But you could also bet like if you truly think Washington – here's the thing. Like Washington, now they have Kyle Allen, and we talked about him last week. The offense did look a little better with him, though. And then, look, I love Alex Smith, but, man, that was a rough second half from him. Kind of tough to watch as well. So I don't know how that'll play out. But ultimately, assuming Kyle Allen stays healthy all game, this offense did look a little better with him. I think he even had a rushing score, didn't he, last week?
Yes, that was the big thing. He ran it in. It was terrific, but then he got hurt. So he's got to stay healthy.
Yeah, so either way, for me, the lean would be Washington, very, very small lean, because I didn't even really like them at the 2.5. I would have wanted them 3, but ultimately that would be a lean. I don't know how you lay points with the Giants against anybody. Look, any team could come out and win this game, but it's a coin flip.
Best pie eaters going to McDonald's for the Travis Scott meal? Are you kidding? Who's Travis Scott? He's a singer, isn't he?
Well, yeah, I misspoke before when I said Travis Scott instead of Clay Travis.
Okay, well, have a good time at McDonald's. Is he just busting balls? Is that what's happening?
I guess.
Yeah. I would not leave to McDonald's to miss JJ's picks here. I just think it's stupid. So, but go ahead, kill yourself with cholesterol and bad picks. It happened if you go to McDonald's this morning. Let's take our time. We could slow it down a little. This, to me, is the fascinating game. I'm starting to think that Pittsburgh is just going to whoop the Browns' asses today. Tell me why I'm wrong. Here we go. First of all, Pittsburgh, 3-point favorites at home. Second of all, totals 15.5. 50.5. Here's why I like the Steelers even more this afternoon. We've got Baker Mayfield playing with some jacked up ribs and an AC joint, and he is really screwed up. Like, his body is mashed coming into a game against the Steelers. They'll put the pressure on him. I mean, I don't know what was going on with Beckham, but his tummy was hurting him this week. Let's avoid all the jokes there. But I think the Steelers can really go in and just beat the hell out of the Browns today. Where am I wrong?
I'll start with where you're right. So Baker Mayfield, I've said this on the show multiple times throughout the season, that he's a quarterback. If you can get pressure on him, he's going to make mistakes. If you can't and you let him sit back there, he looks like a very, very good quarterback. So Pittsburgh, I think, leads the NFL 5 sacks per game. And I think they get, I don't know the exact percentage, but it's like 35 or 40% of snaps they're able to get the quarterback moving for. Ultimately, they're getting a ton of pressure with I don't know if it's just their front four or the blitzing schemes, but either way, they're getting a ton of pressure. That's going to be an issue. Now, they're also usually pretty good against the run, but we mentioned this last week that Pittsburgh's defense has just seemingly gotten worse. They haven't lost anybody from last year, but like their numbers are like a lot worse than last year. And I don't know if it's, and we talked about this briefly, I don't know if it's the upgrading quarterback, if that has something to do with how much effort ends up being shown on the defensive end. And I guess we'll be able to see if that narrative rings true with Dallas now losing Dak to Dalton, and if their defense magically shows improvement. But either way, this defense looks, I'll use the word magically worse for not much reason. So ultimately, I would say that if we continue to see this borderline Swiss cheese type defense we've seen from Pittsburgh, giving up a lot of points to opposing teams, yeah, I mean, Cleveland has a potent offense. I mean, they got a ton of weapons. Kareem Hunt's been a very good replacement for Chubb. So yeah, if Cleveland if this turns into a shootout, yeah, I mean, I'd probably prefer Cleveland because of they have more stable weapons offensively. But if this game plays into the low 20s like you would anticipate it would, I'd expect Pittsburgh to pull out a nice win here. So it's really going to be, to me, this game really comes down to how well Cleveland runs on first and second down. If they're going to be able to run the football for 4 or 5 yards on first and second down, give Baker Mayfield short third and longs all game, where they can quick pass out of that pass rush, then you'll be fine. But ultimately, for me, I'm with you. Lean Steelers, especially at 3. I don't love the Browns. I do like what Stefanski's done for them. They look a lot more potent offensively. Their defense has looked, at least good enough. But for me, yeah, Pittsburgh is got to be the play here. But again, if Cleveland ends up winning this game, you're looking at a team that's 5-1 with a few big wins on the resume too. But yeah, I'll definitely lean Pittsburgh.
I think they're going to beat the hell out of Baker today. But I didn't see any props that I liked on this, believe it or not. So stick a fork in it. We'll move on. You got to lean toward the Steelers, correct?
Correct.
That's the pick.
Yeah.
All right, Baltimore, Philadelphia. Ravens, I mean, this went up from, what was it, 8 at one point in time last week? Now
7.
It was down to 7. Okay. Open to 7. Now it's 10. So the Ravens laying 10 in Philadelphia, totals 46 or 46.5, depending where you're shopping right now. Now, let me say this, JJ. I think something's going on with Lamar Jackson's knee. He is not running as much. He only ran a couple times last week, but he was also sick. So, I mean, it might have been something where he's sick and the knee was bothering him. But for me, the regression we were expecting with him is kind of hit pretty hard. That being said, I mean, it also wouldn't shock me to see him finally throw for 300 yards because of this defense for Philadelphia. There's no doubt the Ravens are getting pressure on Wentz today. Which way are we going?
Okay, so for me, team total over Ravens. I know you're not getting the best number, but this is a team that's shown. So first of all, Philly's missing a lot of key spots, offensive and defensive. But the problem I have with Philly, so ultimately this is just not a good spot for them. I mean, ultimately, but Baltimore, Lamar Jackson has shown he can throw well against below average secondaries. Philly obviously has that. They're not going to, and they shouldn't be able to bother him all that much pass rush wise. And I know I think Fletcher Cox is playing, but I do think they're still missing a few key pieces on that defense. I know they came out on. This is what sparked the big line movement, Holden, on Thursday or Friday when Philly released their inactives. They had like 7 starters, including, of course, Lane Johnson. So ultimately, Wentz is probably going to be somewhat running for his life today, much like Burrow was last week. But this is my pick in Survivor. I know that a lot of people are going to end up landing on Miami this week. But here's the thing. So if you take Miami in Survivors, to me, this is a great leverage week. Okay, in Survivors, like you can take Miami if you're in rebuys, take Miami, sure, to cover yourself. But I mean, you're in week 6. You got to pick spots where you're going to be different. Baltimore is a team that a lot of people probably already picked, but if you've been following our Survivor tracker, we have not picked them yet. So ultimately, Baltimore was going to pick week 11, but the Chargers game gets moved from week 6 to week 11 versus the Jets. So ultimately, it all winds up working out anyway. So yeah, Baltimore for me to be different this weekend. As crazy as that sounds, like wow, you're taking Baltimore and you think it's going to be different. I truly believe like 60% of your Survivor pools are going to have Miami today. So be different. I truly believe. I think it's going to be that high. I'd be shocked if it wasn't that high because ultimately, I think a lot of people might look at this as a free week. I could take the Dolphins. I have no intention of taking the Dolphins all year. They're 10-point favorites. I can't take Baltimore because I already did. I don't feel comfortable taking New England, or I already took New England. I just think they're going to be very popular today. And to me, it's a good spot to divert. Now, sure, Miami can win. That's why I said pick them in your rebuys. There are leagues you can rebuy, but ultimately, Baltimore's going to be my Survivor pick. And I do think they win here today pretty well. Now, I know Philly's looked good, but again, we've seen this with the Ravens. Like they look really good against inferior competition. They're going to get inferior competition today, so I would expect them to look good. I know you're not getting a great number, but I still lean them. Specifically, their team total over. I think they score points today.
I got speaking of Survivor, I love Survivor pools too. I got 2 Survivor pools. I got knocked out early with Indianapolis in one of them. The other one, I still have the Colts. What do you think about the Colts today? Being at home, we can really dive into this game a little bit more. We'll do that in a minute. So let's just finish on Baltimore, Philadelphia here. Do you think the Ravens cover the 10, or is it just too much?
It's a stay away spot for me. It would have been great. It would be great if stay away at 10.
Beautiful. Okay, I like Indianapolis this week in my one Survivor pool left. They are 7.5-point favorites. This game got bet down a couple of points. The total is between 45.5, 46 is where it sits right now. So let's just get into the first conversation. Phillip Rivers is completely washed. He's a disaster. I mean, There's no doubt about it. Huh?
Cheeks.
Okay. What does that mean?
He's cheeks. He's shit.
He's
butt cheeks. Holden, come on. You gotta get what you gotta get what the
Phillip Rivers' ass this morning, okay? I'm trying to win some money, which is why I'm talking to you. So he looks washed, man. There's no doubt about it. But how can I, for the life of me, trust the Cincinnati defense, first of all, to shut down the Colts? Your second favorite player, maybe your favorite player in the league, Jonathan Taylor in this one. You love yourself some Jonathan. No, you don't love Jonathan Taylor. I mean, this is I know Benjamin. I know it's young people slang. I'm not going to do that. I'm finally the old guy and then that's it. I've always been the young guy. I love being the old guy. So what's going on with this game? I cannot trust the Cincinnati Bengals, first of all, in the Survivor pool to screw that up. And second of all, it's a big line, but how are the Bengals hanging in here? They kind of have hung into games. Come on, give me the breakdown.
Okay, so favorite play of the slate for me, my best bet for this video, under 46.5. So I gave this out on Wednesday, maybe Thursday, for our guys. But love the 46.5 number when it was out. And I'm still seeing 46, which I still like. So ultimately, here's the thing. So I don't trust anything about the Colts offense. I don't like Jonathan Taylor. I think their offensive line's great, but I don't think he's a good running back. Phillip Rivers makes a ton of mistakes. He's like his mistakes get like more aggressive the closer they get to the end zone too, which has got to be really deflating for people that bet overs when they play. The Bengals now, ultimately, the Colts have shown that they're a very good defense against average at best offenses. Cincinnati, look, I love Burrow. I think they're a good young squad, but ultimately when he's playing a good defense, that offensive line just can't keep him upright. So, and we saw it last week, Burrow was just running for his life almost every play. It's tough to make good throws consistently. So I don't expect a lot out of the Bengals today. And then the Colts, this is a team that if they get a lead, they just want to take the air out of the football in the second half. They want to run the ball all half long, keep the ball out of Phillip Rivers' hands. So ultimately, under for me makes a lot of sense in this spot. Again, I just don't trust the Colts offense. Now, I know that you could lay 8 here with the Colts because if they get a lead, they'll probably sit on it. Burrow might make a mistake or two. So I could see the spot there to lean the Colts. This should not be a spot where the Colts lose. It would be very surprising if the Bengals come in and win on the road here. But ultimately, for me, favorite bet of the video, or best bet, under 46.5 here, Colts Bengals.
That's the best bet, which again, JJ crushing. So now I got to go run. Now, what about 46, though? It's 46 everywhere.
Yeah, I said 46 is still a good play for me. I mean, I'm okay with it. I mean, obviously the game
worse you push
47 for you, but yeah. I mean, I need 40. I need 46 to win anyway.
Yeah, 46. Worst comes to worst, you push. Worst things have happened. Here we go. Now we're getting into it. Green Bay at Tampa Bay. Could have some wind here, 10 to 15. Looking at the gusts, maybe 18 miles an hour. For me, JJ, again, I'm really wind sensitive. I just have not seen enough data as we've gone back for years now where the rain is going to make a big difference. It doesn't make as big a difference. Wind and rain, that's different. Wind, big difference. So I do wonder if that's going to affect offense in this game because a lot of us think that, boom, this could be the shootout. 55, this total went up almost 3 points to 55. I'm seeing 55.5 at a lot of places. Green Bay, a 1-point favorite. I was doing a show at Keg, and we were looking at this. He goes, why the hell is Green Bay only a point favorite given how good they are and maybe Tampa Bay overplaying right now? So give me that breakdown here. Is there any reason to go away from the Packers this week?
So the only reason you would go away from the Packers, so there's a few things. Okay, number one, Tampa's had a few extra days to prep for this game, right? I mean, they played on last Thursday. So you get a few extra days to prep. They're getting healthy again. Godwin's back. But on the other side, the Packers getting Adams back, right? So there's that too. Mm-hmm. What I will say is that, and I often try to say this, I don't hate to sound like a broken record, but ultimately you betting the Packers today versus the Bucs, you're more or less buying super high on the Packers here. Because, I mean, think about it. If again, I don't know, I always say it sounds somewhat contradicting, but week 1, these two teams play. Maybe even week 2, these two teams play. The Bucs are going to be -3 here, maybe 2.5, maybe 3. They're not going to be getting 1, that's for sure. So Packers have played really well, and I think that's the big question: is how really good are they? Really, maybe even better than people think. I know they've been good, but are they maybe even better than people think? Rodgers looks incredible. So will the Bucs be able to get pressure on him rushing forward? Because if they can, that'll be a big difference. Remember, the Bucs are a funnel defense, so Aaron Jones probably isn't going to do much today running the football. I mean, obviously, he's a good pass-catching back too, but they are so disciplined at stopping the run. So this is basically all going to have to be on Rodgers. Now, what will Tampa Bay do schematically to maybe make it a little more difficult for him? That I don't know, but you can throw on Tampa. So you would anticipate Rodgers having a big game here, especially, again, with how much of a funnel defense Tampa is. And on the other end, look, Brady, look, he's got weapons and he's got the better defense because ultimately Green Bay's defense is worse than Tampa's. But then again, the question is, well, who has Tampa really played to prove they have such an elite defense that everybody's touting? My thing is overall, there's definitely going to be points in this game. And I don't mean that just because I see a high total. I actually lean the over in the game, even at 55. Now, I know the wind being at 15 miles an hour would hurt that a bit. Not too much, though. I just don't see how either team stops the other consistently. I mean, Brady's really not a big turnover guy. He's made a few head-scratching mistakes early on this year. But for the most part, he's never been a turnover guy. And then Rodgers, look, we know what we get with him. He barely ever turns the ball over. So for me, it does have the makings of a lot of – and these two teams are also very good in the red zone scoring. So for me overall, would lean the over. Even as high as 55, maybe you could wait to see if it comes back down. And I know we're also not getting the best number based on when we're doing this video, but I don't want any part of either side in this game, but I do lean the over.
I'll just say this. Brady has thrown 2 pick sixes already. It's happening. Now, it's very tough to predict that that's going to happen again. And he's kind of been up and down. I wonder if he's starting to get comfortable there. But, you ask me which quarterback I trust at this point in time. I think coming into the season, a lot more people trusted Tom Brady than Aaron Rodgers. And I just think Aaron Rodgers is a better quarterback at this point in his career, at least so far. He's
on route to MVP, that's for sure.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So I'm on the Packers on that other side today. So I will now sweat it out since you have given me the other side and I'm not feeling as good about it. Okay, what do we got? We got the Jets in Miami. Is this the trap game? 8.5-point favorites, Miami at home. 46.5, 47 is the total. We are going to get some rain today. Now, I have been asking all the guys that cover the Dolphins that I know what happens with the wind, because they got a lot of wind today, like 15 to 20, gusts in the upper 20s. And I'm saying, how does this work? Because they got that kind of enclosed stadium, and none of them could give me a good answer. None of them. They got the open air that's kind of up below the roof, and then the roof has a whole bunch of open air. I don't know what to do with the weather. How the hell do you trust? How the hell do you trust the Dolphins to cover that number in a rivalry game? You tell me.
That's what I was going to ask you. When you say trap game for who?
Trap game for the Dolphins. People think trap game for the bettors, the backers of the Dolphins. I mean, I know that they should be favorites, but more than a touchdown, even though Joe Flacco's back there, no running game, I'm talking myself into the other way. The Jets' defense is horrible, but we know that Fitzpatrick has games where he's just a complete disaster. Why are they more than a touchdown favorite over the Jets?
Yeah, so this is more or less odds makers saying we're done losing money to people fading the Jets. And they're like, look, if you want to now continue to fade the Jets, you can lay 10 with the Dolphins if you want to continue fading the Jets. But for me, so ultimately, like I said, Miami's going to be very popular with survivors, and deservedly so, right? Ultimately, the Jets don't look like they want to win any games. Now they lose Bell, so Gore's been terrible behind, running the football, and Flacco's immobile back there in the pocket. Crowder's been a nice little bright spot for him. Jeff Smith, if he can catch the football, he would also be a borderline bright spot. I just think that, Miami's looked good this year. I mean, they've looked good on many accounts this year. They hang in there with Seattle. And like I said, they blow out Jacksonville. Now that wasn't a great win per se, but ultimately this team has shown plenty of bright spots this season, specifically offensively. And it's almost like part of us don't want to see it because we want to see the Tua era begin. But Fitzpatrick's looked relatively good. I mean, I know that we're thinking this is all going to end at some point because it usually does with him mid-season. But ultimately he's looked good. This is a good spot for them. But yeah, it's a huge number. I mean, ultimately, I don't want any part of this game by any means. I know that, like I said, you're gonna find people wanting to pick Miami and survivors as a borderline free pick or a free square for a week. That's not going to hurt you at all long term. But again, look, the Jets aren't more than likely won't lose every game. This is a winnable game for them, but they've just looked so bad. So ultimately, big number for me. I don't want any part of it. I wouldn't even want to tease it down either. Like, this wouldn't even be a game I want to tease down. Just a game I'm going to avoid or tease up because, look, if the Jets don't show up, I could definitely see them losing by 30 today. Just a game I'm going to avoid on all fronts.
Yeah, I just don't have faith that Miami is going to cover this number. That's a lot of points. It's not like they're a terrific team. I mean, they're off to a better start. They've got a quarterback that is mercurial, to say the least. I mean, who the hell knows what you're getting out of him? But he's been really good this season. There's no doubt about it. He deserves to keep that job for now. Denver at New England, this game seems like it was pushed back weeks and weeks and weeks. Cam is back for the Patriots. The Patriots are 7.5-point favorites going up against Drew Lock, who should be back in this one. No Melvin Gordon, so it's going to be Phillip Lindsay on that side. I don't see any major injuries on the New England defense. Do you? Am I missing anything here? But
no, and they get what's his name back, right? Gilmore?
Gilmore's playing. Cam is playing. I mean, they got Sony Michel is out, so Damian Harris is actually probably I think he's a better runner, so I think their running game gets an upgrade. The hook's scaring me at 7.5, though. Total's 44.5, minus 10 everywhere, 45. You can find it at one place. This is a tough one for me. Maybe it shouldn't be because I don't think Denver's a very good football team, but The hook bothers me. Should it?
I guess so. Here's the thing: there's a lot of basically what version of New England are you going to get today, right? Are you going to get the Cam Newton's obviously his first game back, so is there going to be any rust there early? Maybe you can make the argument for playing Denver first half, but here's the thing: Drew Lock is now making his return after a few weeks being out, but he is a definite upgrade from Driscoll, so that's for sure. Now, look, ultimately, this is just not a good spot overall for Denver. New England coming in off a few weeks of rest. They get their healthy cornerback. Obviously, they get Cam back. But it's a big number, right? So will New England be able to move the football enough downfield? You could argue that a real good bet for this game may be Denver under their team total. New England, even if they get a lead, they're going to want to sit on it, and they're going to literally take the air out of the football in the second half with a bunch of maybe design cam runs, Sony Michel. Obviously now James White's back in the mix. So ultimately, though, for me, I'd probably lean under in the game overall. If I had to gun in my head, if I had to pick a side for the actual game, but for me, especially with the line now coming down, I would actually a stronger lean for me would be the Broncos team total under. That should be, I guess, a 7.5 total. It should be like maybe 17.5-ish, 18.5, something like that, 19.5. That would be my lean, more or less my strongest lean for the game.
Couple things going on here because we only got the night game to get to. Perfect Rotation wants to know if it's weird that he didn't want to miss the show, so he took us into the shower with him. I was fully clothed and I didn't have to see his schlong. Your thoughts? I'm fine with that.
Yeah, that's more than acceptable. Imagine. Actually, I couldn't even imagine not doing that.
The trap game is Minnesota -4. Maybe Atlanta shows up today. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess it depends, who you ask, right? Because it's funny because if you're at a bar and you ask somebody, hey, what do you consider a trap game? They'll be like, oh, well, a trap game is when the bookies specifically set up a line so that you're going to obviously pick the one side and that one side is going to lose easily. Like trap games aren't. It's a trap game for. I don't know how that specifically could be a trap game because ultimately Atlanta's supposed to have won their last 4 games. So in the last 4 games for the team playing Atlanta was borderline trap games, and Atlanta's lost 4 straight. So look, this could be the next trap game for a team playing Atlanta. Could be, or I say trap game. But look, Minnesota's.
Why did we get this?
Well, because the trap stuff's a myth.
I know why we did it. I just had never seen you give me quotes. Give me air quotes. You're busting my balls for not knowing about cheeks. You're throwing stuff from the 80s out here, dude. You're going old school.
That's what I'm about. I mix it up, new school, old school.
I can't see how this game goes under, guys. Con, come back next week and tell me I'm a jackass, but Atlanta cannot stop anything. They are a sieve, man. Thielen, Jefferson. I think that Madison has a nice day today. I think one of their tight ends scores, probably Irv Smith. I can't see where Atlanta's going to stop them. Minnesota's defense, though, again, it is getting better. They're getting healthy in the secondary. That's huge. That really is huge. But I have a hard time thinking this Falcons team is going to be that bad. That bad. Scott Mack, if she's not 280, she's not Holden's lady. Funny you should bring that up because that's actually Cupid today. Or actually it was 2 days ago. I joined it. It seems like it's probably a bunch of women with a bad self-esteem. I'm all for that. The one thing I did put on my profile was nothing more than 30% body fat. I'm more looking for chubby as opposed to obese. So that's about it. I think chubby with a beautiful face is a great way to go at this point in time in my career. Thoughts on that, JJ?
30%. I respect whatever your opinions are.
I was never into this. Then I turned 40, and then
to each his or own.
Yeah, again, you can judge me all you want. I'm just looking for the highest percentage of victory, and that's one path to victory that I see. Yes, Julio is back for the Falcons today, Clint. And as you talked about, you thought Calvin Ridley was good. Someone wants to know any other player props? Sure, I got to play. When Mangone and I agree on a pick right away, we're there. I think that Andrews over 47.5 receiving yards And I'll go with Brown. He's up to like 58.5 receiving yards now. I'd go up to Brown too. I think both those guys from the Ravens game today have nice days. I think Brown and Andrews, and then going back to James Robinson, 100 yards over that rushing receiving. Those are my three. I just turned 40. No, I turned 46 years ago. What are you talking about? I just looked young.
Nice.
So I shave and dye my hair and look for larger women. We have the night game too, right?
Let's split this up a bit though. Talk on Prize Picks for a few minutes, and then if we have some time, we'll talk on these last games. So look, guys, head over to PrizePicks.com if you haven't already. Like I know it's not. It depends what state you're in, right? But ultimately, PrizePicks.com, very cool website. Basically, it's more or less where you get to parlay player props together. But you're playing them per fantasy points instead of – it's not like this player will go over 30 yards or 40 yards. It's basically like this player will have more than 7 or 8 fantasy points. And you can kind of – you pick multiple players together. The payouts are pretty good, and it's a marketplace, right? So if they release their numbers on Thursday and you start betting overs, right, you're going to see when you go on Sunday that those numbers are now going to be higher because ultimately maybe a lot of other people started betting overs for their points. So you might bet their player points on a Thursday at like 7. And then by the time it gets to Sunday, their player points might be 9. So then maybe you can middle yourself. You can start betting unders. Either way, very cool website. If you sign up with our code PURE, P-U-R-E, 100% deposit match bonus up to $100. It's a free $100. And ultimately, I give plays probably 5-6 days a week for Prize Picks. Doing pretty well over there or been doing really well with these picks as well. So for today specifically, you can either play on Prize Picks. You can either play flex plays or power plays, which basically a flex play means you can get one of your picks wrong. Power play means you have to get them all right. But power plays pay more odds. So I'm doing a 3-player flex play and a 3-player power play, same players. Going to do these for half a unit each. My man Jonathan Taylor, who I love, under 17.5 fantasy points. Deshaun Watson over 23.5 fantasy points. I told you guys how much I liked what I saw from him last week under the new, I'll call it tutelage from the head coach or head coaching. And then Aaron Rodgers over 24. To me, Rodgers at 24 is ridiculous. I mean, Tampa Bay is a funnel defense as it is. And, you know, if you really believe Green Bay is going to win today, they're going to win because Rodgers has a really good game. So ultimately, Rodgers over 24 and Watson over 23.5. I think he may even get his legs going today as well for Watson. And then again, Jonathan Taylor under 17.5. Jonathan Taylor for me under 17 as my favorite.
Is this PPR or half point?
A full point.
I'll take that bet with you. Let's go. What are we betting?
Oh, me and you, Taylor. So you think Taylor's going to go over 17.5?
17.5 fantasy points in a PPR?
Yep. Yeah. Okay. We're going to do 50.
Listen, I don't think he's the fastest guy in the world either.
Want to do how much you want to do? Want to do $50?
Sure.
What are you thinking? More or less? I mean,
that's fine. $50 is fine.
To me, it's free. It's free money because he's
okay. Good. Well, hopefully it works out for me. Yes, I will take 17.5 PPR points out of Jonathan Taylor on Prize Picks today. So let's do a little 50 spot there.
Okay, $50. I like. We should do this weekly.
Well, I mean, I can't do 50 weekly. You know, I am so risk averse. I don't want to do it. I mean, sure, we'll figure it out. This week, we'll do it again next week.
I'm all for pride hold, and we could do it for $1. I mean, I'm all for.
We can't do it for $1.
Money doesn't mean anything. I'm gonna slap my dick on the table after I'm 5-0, 5 weeks from now.
Well, I would go to HR and say that is highly illegal. We don't have an HR department. I think you're the guy, so fine, go ahead and do that.
Death tax and just bet Jonathan Taylor under every week.
Listen, it's gonna happen today. 17.5. I wasn't even gonna watch that game, and now I'm gonna be all over that game. Plus, you like the under in that game too at 46.5. Every week, because I am still confused on Wong teasers. I've never done them. I still haven't done them. Again, explain the Wong teaser.
So a Wong teaser specifically is when you tease a number 6 points. I guess you could technically do more, but when you tease a number 6 points through 2 key numbers, okay, it has to be through 2. Could be through more, but it has to be through 2, okay? And there's certain rules to it, like Clint just mentioned. You can never cross a 0 in a Wong. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, more or less what numbers you're looking for in a Wong teaser. Specifically, 1.5 is a number in a Wong teaser, plus 1.5, because you can take 1.5 right to 7.5, okay? Teasing through 3 and 7. Okay, you can take an 8.5 is a big Wong teaser number. Okay, because actually you can tease 8.5 up or down through a Wong. Okay, you can tease 8.5 down to 2.5, where you tease it through 7 and 3, or you can tease 8.5 up to 14.5, where you tease it through 10 and 14. So, but the long story short is there's teaser. I always say this, like the only teasers you really should be betting are Wong teasers, because you can't just tease numbers to tease them. You can't just say, oh, well, this number is 6.5, and I'll just feel better if I tease it to 12.5. But like the game is never going to land on 12. I mean, yeah, sure, there's a small percentage, probably less than 1% of the game could land on 12. But more or less, games really never land on 12. So you're getting those points do you nothing. And the other idea of course, people don't like to tease through a 0 is you're basically giving away free points. Now, you used to always give away free points because overtime didn't used to end in a tie. Okay, so the idea of crossing a 0 in an NFL game where no games ever ended in a tie. Now that rule changed, whatever it was 5-10 years ago, where games can end in ties. So ultimately, teasing through 0 is not the end of the world. But again, remember, you can't push a teaser. So even if you land a teaser to a 0 and it pushes, the whole bet pushes, even if you won your others. So you don't want to push. That's why you always want to land on a half number more or less, and you always want to land through key numbers. Otherwise, you more or less that should be your only recipe for teasing. And again, there's certain numbers that should poke out to you in teasers. Okay, like I said, 14.5, 1.5, 4.5, because 4.5 you could take to 10.5. Obviously 8.5 to 14.5, and then you could start getting real crazy. Like if you see, 11.5, you could take that to 17.5. But ultimately, for the most part, that's more or less what a long teaser is.
Just real quick, the official inactive came out here for the Vikings. They are going to only dress 4 cornerbacks. I thought, and yesterday I should have known this. KJ Osborne was ruled out. I didn't see that. I glanced right over it. Chris Boyd is out too. So I just want you to.
Might be Matt Ryan's season.
I'm not. Oh, God, what are you doing to me, dude? But you know what? I mean, it's possible. I think that I have seen some improvement from the Vikings defense, but now that they're only dressing 4 today, that scares me again. Yes, Clint, crossing the 0 is not Wong. It is wrong. Yes, you should never cross the 0, right? Never.
There's no. Well, here's the thing. So I'm not saying like I don't say to people you can't win. I mean, of course you can win doing it, but you're giving away free. You're basically losing expected value on the teaser doing so.
All right, let's say goodbye. I got to run to JSU, man. It's always fun doing a show with you.
Okay, yeah, same here. And again, just to recap, best bets. I'm on the under 46.5 Colts, Bengals, and Holden is on James Robinson over 100.5 yards rushing and receiving. We have a little fun wager between us over Jonathan Taylor not being a good running back. And other than that,
I don't think he's good. You don't have to think a guy is good to score fantasy points, okay?
Yeah, I mean he'll get his 25 carries for 40 yards. That's that's a typical stat.
Ball in the end zone 2 times on the spot for 10 yards.
All right, yeah, fun show as always. Thanks guys for hanging out. Wish you all the best of luck with all your bets today, and stay safe, everybody.